if 2 to the x is exponential growth, and then we do a reflection, then it's like this. And then 2 to the negative 1, does anybody know what that is? Come on, what's 2 to the negative 1? Come on, 2 to the negative 1, what is it? Is it negative 2? No, it's not. What's 2 to the negative 1? Take a guess. Do you remember? It is a half. And look at that. It went from growth to decay because we put a negative up here. Let me make sure you got that. What's 9 to the negative 1? 1/9. Was growth. If I put it to the negative 1, it becomes decay. That make sense to you? So growth and decay are related, and they're only a negative apart. If you have a graph that looks like this, was that growth or decay? That one was decay. So y equals 1/2 to the x. What if I wanted to make it growth? I just have to put a negative 1 right there. And 1/2 to the negative 1 flips it. And it becomes y equals, what's 1/2 flipped? 2 to the x. And that's growth, like this, see? So they can flip back and forth, back and forth. One's growth, one's decay. This is like the price of TV sets going down, 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 down. And this is like the number of people that have streaming services like Netflix going up, up, up. Although just recently Netflix went down a lot. Their stock went down a lot because they were expecting to grow by a couple million more people would sign up for their service, and actually they shrunk. They all of a sudden by the end of the quarter, businesses go by quarters, which is 3 months at a time. 3 times 4 makes 12 months, right? So 3 months at a time. Over that 3 months, they actually shrank. Why do you think Netflix has lost some subscribers? Yes?
There are a lot of people that just running out of things to watch.
Yeah, they're kind of getting sick of like I've already watched everything on there. What else?
Didn't they make the price?
They did raise their price. That's going to cause some people to go away. Yes?
Like Disney Plus and other stuff?
Competitors like Disney Plus and other stuff, yes. There's quite a few now. Let me pause the video for just a second here. All right. So what do we really need to learn today? Well, basically, if we give you an equation and we say y equals 2 to the x, already you're supposed to be able to graph that. Now we just throw in a negative somewhere and see if you can graph that. All right, so what's the key to these? XY chart. Because any fool can take some dots and go, well, there was a dot here, 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 here. Anybody can connect the dots. So let's just get some dots. Would you please get me some dots for this? Make me 3 points that would be on that. I'll pause for a second. Just find me 3 points. For those that are like, what are you talking about? Just put in 0, put in 1. And a lot of people put in 2, and there's nothing wrong with that, but try putting in -1. Because you need to know what those -1 powers are. I guarantee you it's on the test. You're going to see to the power of -1. So you got to practice it. Okay, so if I put in a 0, I put a 0 here. Anything to the 0 power, 1. If I put in a 1 right here, anything to the 1 power is itself. So 2 to the 1 is 2. And then I put in a -1. And this is where it's really important you understand negatives, because this whole day is about putting in an extra negative. But if I just put in a -1, 2 to the -1 makes a half. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Please say you had that one right. Good. Okay. So then how is this any different today? Well, how would it have been different if I'd have said, don't graph 2 to the x, graph 2 to the -x. I'd like you to make that chart right next to it, and you'll see that if you put in 0, 1, and -1, yeah, you can put a negative even when there's already a negative there, that you will get different answers. Except when you put in 0, you might be wondering, what the heck is -0? It's just 0. and 2 to the 0 is 1. So 0, comma 1 is in the same place. Look at that. Let me show you that. Do you remember me saying just a second ago that this and this were just a flip away from each other? And what point do they intersect at? 0, comma 1. See? 0, 1. It makes sense that they would both go through that spot. So then 1, I better give you a different answer. When you put in a 1, it's 2 to the negative 1, which is a half. And then when you put in a negative 1, negative 1 goes in here, and I have negative 1, which is 2 to the positive 1. 2 to the 1 is 2. Raise your hand if you had those right. Cool. Do you get your getting points on this one for one of them? And you're getting points on that one for the other one? Okay. This is going to be easy now. By the end of the lesson, I hope that you can describe graphs that have been reflected. Okay. By the end of the lesson, I hope that you can transform exponential graphs using translations and reflections. So if I say, here's 2 to the x, now you got to do this to it. Times it by a negative 1 right there, and then add 6. And then you got to be able to say, well, that's up 6. And that is a reflection. Try to remember not to call it a flip. But is it a high or is it a low? Is it a horizontal because it's on the inside, or is it a vertical because it's on the outside? Hint, I'm going to put parentheses here to make it a little more obvious. That was a horizontal reflect. If it had been a vertical reflect, the negative would have been right here, and that would have made our equation go from this to this. Looks quite different, doesn't it? That's called a vertical reflect. That's if the negative's on the outside. Okay, a couple more of those changes. Let's say I said y equals 5 times 2 to the x minus 3 plus 7. Holy cow, that's the start value. How many of you would have been able to identify that as the start value? Is that sticking in your head? The number in front's the start value. Okay, next. That's called the base, and it tells me that there's growth, not decay, because it's bigger than 1. Next, that moves where? You say it, not me. And this moves where? Taylor, that one on the inside there. I'm putting in a blue parentheses. Hint, it's on the inside. Which way does it move? Close. It was left-right, but it was right. Right, 3. Easy mistake to make because it's the opposite of what you would think in there. And Stella, this one, the 7. Up 7, correct. You can trust the ones on the outside. It seems like up. It is up.
I can grab something. I think I've got it in my chem class.
I can live with that. I'll trust you. All right, moving on. To this page. Over which line is the graph being reflected? Well, let's start with horizontal and vertical, and then we'll say which line that's going over. Okay, this is horizontal on inside. That is a horizontal. Which way is horizontal? Horizontal is this way. That goes over the what axis? I just crossed an axis by drawing a vertical line. Which axis did I just cross? It goes over the what? The y. Horizontal. Ooh, that goes with horizontal, horizontal. You remember that? That's going to work again for this unit. How about this one? Is that on the inside or the outside? Because it's high vo. Is this negative here on the inside or the outside? What do you say?
Outside.
That's on the outside. So therefore it's what?
Vertical.
Therefore it's vertical. And do you remember the dumb word that I told you? Zertical. Why did I tell you that word? To help you remember, it's the x-axis that it goes over. If I were to draw you a picture of a vertical reflect, here's what it would look like normally. Vertical goes like this. Which axis did I just jump across? That axis, the y-axis. Uh-oh. Duh, my brain is melting. Did I do it wrong before? Vertical is up and down, vertical goes over the y-axis. Uh-oh, those words do not work. What? Horizontal went over the y-axis. Oh, that's not the y-axis. My brain is broken. That's the x-axis. Ah. For some reason, I just convinced that was the y-axis. It was not. That was the x-axis. So it is vertical, so these words do work. Whew. Thought I was teaching you wrong for a second there. Okay. This one. Horizontal, inside. Vertical, outside. Tell me which one to circle. Is it high or is it low? Say one. That is on the inside. It's high. If it was on the outside, it would have been out here. It's not. Okay, so that's horizontal. If you have to, you draw yourself a little picture of what horizontal would look like. See, the horizontal's like that, like the horizon line, and it's going over the y-axis. Otherwise, you could say horizontal. So y-axis is what it goes over. This one. Vertical on the outside. And that's going over the vertical x-axis. It goes over the x. Following this? Okay. If you had to graph this, you'd make 3 points. Let's do it, and then we'll figure out what the horizontal asymptote is. So everybody put in 0, 1, and -1. Those are my 3 A game points. Always use 0, 1, and -1. You might think 0, 1, and 2, but for this unit, I think this is better. Eddie, put in 0 for me. What do you get?
1.
Yep. And then put in 1 for me.
1 over 3.
Yep. And then put in -1 for me. Hint, there's 2 negatives. Yep, that's +3. Now let's graph them. 0, 1. 1, 1/3. And -1, 3. Well, look at that. It looks a lot like that decay thing Mr. Server talks about a lot. Now, is there an asymptote? Well, it certainly isn't an asymptote on the up and down, but there is one this way. Like, it's getting really close to 0, but it'll never touch 0. You remember that deal? So that's the horizontal, which is the horizontal, y equals 0. Okay. That make sense? Try another one. Last one that we do together, and then we can start homework, which will be awesome. Get it on. Truckee, tell me some numbers to put in for x.
0, 1.
0, 1, -1, excellent. Atis, when I put in 0, what do I get? Yep. It's just regular 1. I don't know if you said -1, but it's regular 1 in case you said negative. I get there's a negative in the front of it, but if you take anything and you put it to the 0, it's +1. All right. Humphreys, you put a 1 right here.
Where?
You're putting the 1 into the equation, so you're putting it in there. So you got, I'm going to erase the parentheses because I just made up some parentheses there that weren't really there. So it's -2 to the 1. Hint, this is important. There are not parentheses.
So it's 2.
Nope.
Is it 1/2?
Nope. That'd be if it was to the -1 power. You're overthinking it. You put anything to the 1 power,
It's -2.
it's just -2. It's just the same as what it was before. And last but not least, we got to put in a -1. Negative 1 goes right here. Negative 2 to the negative 1. Negative 1 flips things. Feels like it's going to be a half, but that would be wrong. It's not a half. It's really close to a half. What do you think? Negative 2 to the negative 1. It's so close to negative a half, or so close to a half because it's negative a half. It's just that there's a negative there, that's all. Okay, so negative 1 means flip it. And what do you take? Negative 2 over 1, and then you flip it, and it's 1 over negative 2, 1/2. So negative 1 power means flip it over. And the negative isn't going to go away just because you flipped it. There's my 3 points. The asymptote on these guys, if it's exponential growth or decay, asymptote's here. It's going to be always at y equals 0 because that's horizontal, which is horizontal. Now I can graph these points 0, 1, 1, negative 2. Something's weird here. Negative 1, negative a half is down there. Something's wrong. I'm doing something wrong and I don't know what. Ooh, I know what it is. I know what it is. I know what it is. Which of these 3 points do you think is wrong? One of these things is not like the others. When I put in 0, I was absolutely convinced I was doing it right, but I was doing it wrong. Because that negative gets applied last, and first thing you do is 2 to the 0, and then you make it negative. It's an order of operations thing. There isn't parentheses on this. If there isn't parentheses, then the exponent goes first and the negative goes on later. If there had been parentheses around it, I would have been right, but there wasn't parentheses around this. If there's parentheses here, that would have forced it to be 1, but it wasn't that. So it was negative 1. So 0, negative 1 means this point right here is down here. And if you think about it, it'll make sense because this is a reflection of this. So it's not this one. It's the other one, but it was supposed to be a reflect. So, all right. That was intense. But the good news is we're done. There's a lot more practice problems, but I don't think we need to keep going over. All you'd keep doing is putting in 0, 1, and negative 1 and getting some points. The asymptote's always going to be at y equals 0 unless you move the thing up or down. Like if they said like plus 8, then it would be y equals 8. If they do something like that. And any person can find 3 dots, and then just connect the dots whichever way they go. Okay, I think you've got the idea. Last thing, this is the thing for today. When they stick a negative on, it makes this graph flip or reflect either horizontally or vertically. It's horizontal when it's on the inside, and it's vertical when it's on the outside. That's a vertical flip. And I've told you those dumb little words, vertical goes with zertical, so it's an x equals, it is what it goes over. It goes over the x-axis. Because it was a vertical flip, also known as zertical. Or you can draw yourself. Vertical goes this way, and so that goes over the x-axis. All right, you have homework. Everybody find that homework. I'm going to pause for a second while you pull up the homework, and I'll tell you which ones you can skip. So I had kids skip 1C and 2C, because those are going to take you the most time, and they're extra practice that I don't think you'll need. So do all the problems except 1C and 2C. If you get stuck, please come up and ask. I'll be happy to help you. That's all I got for the video for today.